Now, another problem we're facing in this app is here, our little modal here, where we can enter text. On smaller screens and in landscape mode, we can't really type here, and we constantly have to close the keyboard to get to the other inputs. Now, thankfully, Flutter provides us with a tool to work around that issue and find out how much space is occupied by that soft keyboard, and actually move that entire box up by that space so that we can still type in there. For that, let's go to the new transaction widget here, the new transaction file. And in that file, we can now add some padding to that container inside of our card here. And actually, we're already doing that, but we can now change this to the only constructor of edge insets so that we can target each side individually, because there I want to assign a default padding of 10 to all sides, left, top, and right. But for bottom, which is where our keyboard appears, I actually want to be more flexible, and that's why I need to control every side separately. There we can again use our good old media query, which gives us some information about our sizing and about our device in general, as you already learned by now. And there we can get access to the view Insets property, and that gives us information about anything that's lapping into our view, and typically that's the soft keyboard. And then we get a bottom property which tells us how much space is occupied by that keyboard, and I want to adjust the bottom padding of that card by that space plus my 10, which should always be there, to lift up or to move up my entire input area. So with that, if I now tap in there, you see now we have that bottom overflow problem. And that simply happens because that general modal sheet has the height it has. Now to work around that, we can simply wrap this entire card here into a single child scroll view, so that if we are in that mode where we have some overlapping content, whoops, and that should be single child scroll view, not overview, that we can simply scroll. So now if I tap in there, now we can scroll everything into view here. And that's certainly better than the solution we had before, where this was pretty unusable. Now you can actually go more fancy than that. The modal bottom sheet, which we're using, simply is restricted, at the moment at least, such that you can't change its height like this. Otherwise, it would be easy to simply ramp up its height and therefore avoid having to add that scrolling view, which still might not be optimal. And you can build more elaborate solutions if you basically replace that built-in modal bottom sheet with your own implementation. And in case you're interested, you'll find a link to a code snippet of a custom built bottom sheet, which has more setup options and which is a bit more flexible. But this also is way more advanced than what we covered thus far, which is for now this solution will do. And it shows you how you can work with a combination of single child scroll view and the media query in conjunction with the information about how much space is taken up by the bottom keyboard to still move everything such that users can interact with your application and reach all the inputs.